What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB here. So let's talk about one of the elephants in the room when it's going to come to our 2024 offseason. And this was sparked by a tweet I seen from Rich Cimini, right? This was in regard to ex-guard for the New York Jets, Rodger Saffold, and Rich Cimini essentially tweeted that he requested his release, and then we know that he immediately got picked up by the Cleveland Browns. Now, I found this particularly interesting because the narrative that was painted from Robert Saleh and the New York Jets was that, they released Rodger Saffold. We heard in later press conferences between that and Dalvin Cook and, other practice squad changes that they wanted to give opportunities to these guys for them to, potentially end up on a Super Bowl team. Now, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that, but it is laughable because once again, the New York Jets find a way to do the impossible, right? If you think back to it, we signed Rodger Saffold October 31st. On paper and in the realm of what was going on with the New York Jets, multiple injuries to the line. We had seen maybe our third or fourth guard at this point go down with either various, leg issues, arm issues, shoulders, etc., and concussions, right? Rodger Saffold looked like a great pickup late in the season for us, right? Maybe not a Morgan Moses type situation or anything of that sort, even though he was signed late in the offseason. It still seemed like a good move for a team that desperately needed to try to find some success with the offensive line. Keep in mind, yes, he was 35 years old. There was a reason why he had still been available for so long, but he played with Keith Carter for 3 years. He had 2 recent back-to-back Pro Bowls. The most recent one coming with the Bills, and so you felt comfortable, right? I think he finished his Bills season only allowing 2 sacks. I think he had like 7 penalties. So all in all, considering the Jets were in desperation mode here, great addition. And then weeks and weeks go by, and we hear nothing, no movement, right? Rodger Saffold isn't going up to the active roster. We haven't elevated and just not used him, nothing of the sort. He wasted away on our offensive line, and it ended up just being very reminiscent of, like a Dwayne Brown type situation for the New York Jets. So the question that is left up in the air to me would be, why did he never get an opportunity to go, right? And I won't say it's for lack of talent. I won't say it's for lack of health, because otherwise, why would the Cleveland Browns go out and pick him up right away? And you can make the same point with a guy like Dalvin Cook. Honestly, obviously a lot of these signings by Joe Douglas this year have not, they haven't panned out well at all, right? And so the elephant in the room when it comes to the offseason is a lot of us have this expectation that the New York Jets have to once again win the offseason, as we generally tend to do, either through, major headline signings, or at least under Joe Douglas's tenure, some draft classes that make sense for the most part with either selections or roster building philosophy with positions we're picking, right? Or specialties of the coaching staff when you want to take a look at linebackers, in the defensive line, right? Right now, we're kind of seeing an exodus of players from the New York Jets, right? We not only have concerns about players that we've signed via free agency, we also have concerns about players that we have drafted, right? You talk about Rodger Saffold that we just discussed. You take a look at Dalvin Cook, right? Immediately picked up by the Ravens once he passed waivers. You take a look at the new Garrett Wilson situation, right? He's commenting on his future, and most guys, especially only heading into year 2, would say they want to make sure they retire in a Jets uniform, or at least whatever specific team that they were drafted by. That's not the case with Garrett Wilson, right? He's allowing things to be very fluid, which is a smart play by him, right? Obviously, we're going to continue to see success with him, and if we can turn things around, then cool. I'm sure he'll be more than willing to stay in New York and see things through to a Hall of Fame career. If we continue to see this Nathaniel Hackett nonsense, he'll be gone. right? I could see him not even necessarily finishing out his entire rookie contract before we see a requested trade demand come out. And I can't blame him, right? One of the more hot fire topics that have come out was from Nathaniel Hackett's recent press conference. Some of the most insane comments regarding Breece Hall or just any player on a team that you've joined by anything, right? This, like, some of the stuff we've heard from Nathaniel Hackett makes Adam Gase's, eye-rolling, crazy press conference intro look like child's play. And so essentially Nathaniel Hackett admitted he had no idea what the talent of Breece Hall was, and that didn't realize he'd be such a passing game phenom all the way until, and I think it was the Giants in Week 8 of the regular season, right? And I've heard plenty of people point out the fact that not only did he kill you when you were the head coach of the Broncos in the passing game, but then you've also seen what he's done, right? You didn't know at large what your number one running back could do after what we've seen his rookie season, after what he's done versus you, after him leading the league behind a still poorest offensive line, but a healthy version of the New York Jets offensive line. Or I should say at least technically leading the league, right? It was him and basically Devon A-Chain up there. And then when the running game wasn't effective and you finally started trying to incorporate other guys into the offense, which happened to be Breece Hall, you see him take off, and now I believe he's leading all running backs in receiving yards, right? So it's crazy to me. At this point, not only do you look terrible in terms of crafting X and O's, being able to put together a game plan that specifically targets weaknesses in a defense. Not only have you been failing to adjust between quarters, even between drives, and even between halves, but now you are openly and stunningly admitting that you aren't even sure about the weapons that you have on your roster. This would be akin to saying I had no idea Garrett Wilson had the kind of route running skills or release packages to beat press coverage or the hands that he has on his way to making 1,000 yards another season where he had to run through a carousel of 4 quarterbacks. So I have no idea what to even do with that guy, right? I've been a proponent of this for a while, that we need to wipe this coaching staff clean. Just with what I've seen, I don't trust them to develop anybody on offense. And if you can't even eye the talent that you have on the roster, I think that speaks volumes. So nonetheless, I think between Nathaniel Hackett's nonsense and what we're seeing out of guys like Rodger Saffold leaving, Dalvin Cook leaving, putting aside the fact that he didn't really do much of anything for the Jets. But you never know, right? He'll end up killing it in the playoffs, I'm sure. And the narrative will be that, Nathaniel Hackett and the Jets don't know what they're doing on offense. And then you have Garrett Wilson, who's murky about his future, and that could leak down into guys like I'm drawing a blank. Jeremy Ruckert, for example. It can end up leaking into guys like Breece Hall, right? And we've already seen post-game press conferences with how impactful the continuous losing has been with them. So, nonetheless, ultimately, don't expect a super fruitful offseason, right? We might have to revert back to our famous same old Jets playbook and end up having to overpay egregiously for guys in order to bring them in at this point, because the only saving grace next year, be honest, is Aaron Rodgers. He's already dealing with some of his own mess, as discussed previously. And to be honest, if we even do have any success over, let's say he does play the next 2 years, that's pretty much all going to be contributed to him and none to the coaching staff, right? At least not the offensive coaching staff, pending any kind of major changes. So, I don't know. That's my 2 cents for what it's worth. I do find it particularly concerning, and, maybe we'll get some more, information from these guys. We've kind of heard bits and pieces from Michael Carter, for example, our former running back. We've seen his success automatically with the Cardinals, right? So, nonetheless, let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you again. Peace.